Japanese rice farmers grew some of the highest yielding crops in the world for 8 centuries without a single product from a garden store. What they used instead was ash, water, and silica, the compound that makes plants nearly pest-proof. A method so simple, the fertilizer industry is counting on you never finding out about it. It is called Mizugarasu, liquid glass. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly how to make it and why it works. Let's start with the problem every gardener knows, but nobody talks about honestly. Modern gardening products are designed to create dependency. You buy the fertilizer. The plants respond. You need more fertilizer next season. You buy the pesticide. The insects develop resistance. You need a stronger pesticide. The cycle continues. Every year, more products, more spending, more chemicals going into your soil. And underneath all of it, a fundamental question nobody in that industry wants you asking. What did people do before all of this existed? How did farmers grow food reliably, abundantly, for centuries, without a single bottle from a garden store? In Japan, part of the answer is Mizugarasu, and it starts with something most Americans already have, or can get for free: ash. Silica is one of the most abundant compounds on Earth. It is what gives quartz its hardness. And in the plant world, it is structural and fundamental, the compound that determines whether a plant stands strong or collapses under pressure. When a plant absorbs silica through its roots, it deposits it in the cell walls. The walls thicken, the stems become more rigid, the outer surface of the leaves hardens. And what this means practically is amazing. Insects have a significantly harder time penetrating the outer surface of a silica-rich plant. The physical barrier makes feeding more difficult, and many common pests simply move on to easier targets. A 2022 study in plant cell physiology confirmed reductions in aphid, whitefly, and spider mite damage in silica-treated plants without a single drop of pesticide. Fungal spores, which need moisture and a point of entry to take hold, struggle against a hardened, silica-coated surface. Powdery mildew, one of the most common and frustrating problems for home gardeners, has been shown to be significantly reduced in silica-supplemented plants. In drought conditions, silica-rich cell walls retain water more effectively. The plant does not wilt as quickly. It recovers faster when water returns, and performance goes up. Japanese rice farmers who documented silica use over generations recorded consistently stronger plants, taller stalks, heavier grain heads, faster recovery from heat and storm damage. If this is the first time you are hearing about any of this, it will not be the last. We uncover these kinds of methods every week on this channel. Subscribe now so you do not miss what is coming. The fertilizer industry figured out the power of silica, and they built a product category around it. $30 to $40 a bottle, and sometimes even more. The label lists the benefits accurately, because the benefits are real and few people can deny it. What the label does not tell you is that Japanese farmers have been making the exact same thing from ash and water since the 13th century. Here is where Mizugarasu comes from and why it works. Rice straw, the stalks left after the grain is harvested, contains up to 20% silica. That is extraordinarily high. Japanese rice farmers observed over centuries that burning that straw and returning the ash to the soil improved the following season's crop. The plants were stronger, more resistant, and just better. At some point, someone made a further discovery. If you steep that ash in water overnight, the silica dissolves into the water itself. You are not just returning ash to the soil, you are creating a liquid solution that plants can absorb directly through their root systems, moving silica into the plant's tissues immediately, rather than waiting for slow soil mineralization. They called it Mizugarasu, water glass, liquid glass, because when the water catches the light at the right angle, it has a faint shimmer to it, a slight viscosity, the dissolved silica, visible to anyone who knows what they are looking at. This was not an accident. This was observation, experiment, and refinement over hundreds of years. Japanese farmers were practicing applied soil science without a laboratory, without a chemistry degree, with ash and water and attention. Now let's talk about how to make it, because this is simpler than you are expecting. You need two things, ash and water. That is it. The best ash comes from burning rice straw, if you can source it from a local farm or feed store, but hardwood ash works very well. Oak, hickory, fruitwood works fine. If you have a fireplace, a fire pit, a wood stove, or know someone who does, you have your raw material. The key is clean ash from untreated wood. No charcoal briquettes, no ash from paper or cardboard. What we want is clean wood ash only coming from natural sources. Here's the process. Take about 1 cup of ash for every gallon of water you want to make. Put the ash in a bucket. Pour the water over it. Stir it well. Cover it loosely and let it steep overnight. 8 to 12 hours is enough. The next morning, strain it. I suggest you use a fine mesh strainer or a piece of cloth to remove all the ash particles. What you have left is your Mizugarasu concentrate. What you are making is essentially potassium silicate, the same compound sold commercially. The water will be slightly gray or cloudy. That is the dissolved silica. That is exactly what you want. Now dilute it before using it on your plants. A ratio of roughly 1 part concentrate to 10 parts, clean water is a safe and effective starting point. Some Japanese farming traditions used a more diluted ratio, 1 to 20, for regular weekly use. Start conservative. Your plants will respond. One caution: wood ash is highly alkaline. If your soil is already above pH 6.5, use this sparingly or test first. The ash can raise soil pH significantly. Apply it as a soil drench, watering your plants at the base the same way you normally would. Once a week is the traditional frequency. Consistent, low dose, ongoing application is what builds silica in the plant's cell walls over time. This is not a one-time treatment, it is a practice. You can also apply a diluted version as a foliar spray directly onto the leaves. This creates that hardened surface barrier most quickly and is particularly effective if you are dealing with active fungal pressure or pest damage. Spray in the early morning so the leaves dry before direct sun hits them. Store your concentrate in a covered container out of direct sunlight. It keeps for several weeks without degrading. The total cost, if you are already burning wood, is zero. Now let's talk about which plants respond best. Because not every plant benefits equally, grasses and grains, like wheat, corn, and rice, are the plants Mizugarasu was originally developed for. They are naturally high silica accumulators, meaning they are biologically primed to absorb and use it. If you grow any grain crop, even decorative grasses, Mizugarasu will produce visible results quickly. Tomatoes and peppers respond exceptionally well. These are two of the most pest and fungus-prone plants in the American home garden. Silica strengthens the outer tissue of the fruit itself, reducing cracking, and makes the leaves far more resistant to the whiteflies and aphids that devastate these crops every summer. Many gardeners who switch to weekly Mizugarasu applications report needing no other pest intervention at all. Cucumbers and squash, which are notoriously vulnerable to powdery mildew, show some of the most dramatic responses. The hardened leaf surface that silica creates is almost a direct defense against the spore penetration that mildew requires. If powdery mildew has destroyed your squash crop in past seasons, this is where to start. Roses benefit significantly, particularly for black spot and aphid resistance, strawberries for botrytis resistance, beans and legumes for stronger pod set and stem support. The plants that benefit least are root vegetables like carrots and beets, where structural strength above ground matters less. But for anything you are growing above the soil, anything prone to pest or fungal pressure, Mizugarasu is worth trying before anything else. Let's talk about what the fertilizer industry does not want you sitting with. The global fertilizer and garden chemical market is worth over $200 billion annually. It is built on the premise that growing plants is complicated, that you need products, that you cannot do it without buying something. Japanese farmers grew rice, one of the most demanding crops in the world, at extraordinary yields, for centuries, without synthetic inputs. What they had instead was knowledge, observation, practices passed down through generations that encoded real science, long before science had the language to describe it. Mizugarasu is one of those practices. The silica content of wood ash is measurable. The uptake pathway through plant roots is mapped. The cell wall deposition process has been studied in peer-reviewed research. The benefits, structural strength, pest resistance, fungal resistance, drought tolerance, yield improvement, are confirmed. The only thing missing from the conversation is the part where someone tells you that your fireplace ash and a bucket of water will do the same thing as the $30 bottle. Nobody funds that study because nobody profits from it. This spring, before you buy a single bottle of anything for your garden, try this first. Burn some clean hardwood, collect the ash, steep it overnight, strain it, dilute it, water your plants. Do it every week for a month. Watch what happens to the stems. Watch what happens to the leaves. Watch whether the pests that showed up last year find your plants quite as inviting this time. 800 years of Japanese farmers already know what you're going to find. The knowledge was always there. It was just never profitable to pass it on. Now you have it, use it,